Have you ever considered taking your primary residence and turn it into a rental property for yourself? I have Molly Zimmerman from Bell Bank Mortgage here today to talk to us about that towards the end of the video. In the meantime, I have an update for you on what is happening in our real estate market, particularly in the Wright County area, but also in the Hennepin County. I am Erica Carlson with Bricks Real Estate. I sell residential real estate all over the Twin Cities, whether I'm helping people buy or sell. If you learn anything new today, I would love for you to subscribe, whether you're finding this on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. I'd love for you to join that growing community. If you are ready to take a first step or you have any questions I can answer, click on the link I'm providing in the paragraph. On there, you will see that there is a first link, and you'd click that to pick a time that works best for you. And I welcome that conversation. So let's start by looking at the data. We are looking at the Wright County market information to help you make decisions whether you're buying or selling property in the near future. Let's start with the active properties. We're at 474 with no contingencies, 416 if we have contingencies. And if you're not sure what that word means, don't hesitate to reach out to me so we can talk about any of those concepts. As you look back in the last couple of weeks, you can see we have trended upwards. However, for us to jump from 468 to 474 is actually, I know it's not a big number, but it's actually big for us. Of course, if you are a home shopper, you may not feel like there's that much more selection. And again, what's important is it's trending up over time. We haven't seen options like this since it looks like December 20th. And so it's been quite a while. That inventory really dipped down around the holidays and has come back up. The pendings are also trending up. Huge change for us, 248 to 263. A lot of you have gone under contract on properties. Again, notice the trend line is going up, and so what I'm doing here is like here we're at 211 in March 6th, and now we're at 263 April 17th. So people are going under contract. Closings, that data doesn't jump up as much. It was at 154 last week, 156 this week. Obviously nothing like comparing to the week before, but again, the trend line is up. And then my favorite data, which is right where I would expect it to be. So we're at 2.9 for Wright and 5.8 for Hennepin. So speaking more plainly, let me interpret that for you. That means if you're in Wright County and you're a home seller, then I want you to realize that 3 showings per week is average, and that is what would be expected. So you're not going to expect, 20 or 50 showings on your house just because you listed it yesterday. Again, numbers go up at the beginning. They're always the hottest the first weekend. When you pick that day to list your house, you need to be ready to go. You shouldn't be surprised that somebody wants to see it first thing, 8 a.m., 9 a.m. Those are your most serious people. Those are the people that are really ready to go there because they're, for lack of better terms, they're pouncing on houses, right? A new house hits the market that's might be perfect for them. They're going to go see it and say if it's a yes or a no. And no reason to be upset if it's a no, because people only need to buy one house and you only need one buyer. Like, we tend to forget that. Like, we want those multiple offers. It gives us warm, fuzzy feelings when everybody wants the property we're selling, but we shouldn't take it personally. Now, if we're not getting any offers, that's what speaks more volumes. Like, why, maybe what's wrong with my pricing strategy? Do I need to relook at my pictures? Things like that. Let's jump to Hennepin County. They have 5.8. So 5-6 showings a week. So it's always, not always, but you guys know if you're watching these videos week to week, that's normal. Hennepin moves faster. Their population's bigger. The quantity of houses is more. So that demand is always going to be higher in Hennepin County. Last week, we had this fluke of a week where Hennepin jumped up to 7.8. I told you guys that something was wrong. There was a particular house that demanded a lot of attention, and it severely affected our numbers for the 250 to 500K range. Notice this week, that's gone. We're not still at 7-8 showings a week. We jump back to 2.9. So really what is happening here is it's slowing down. And the most important thing I can tell you is it looks like we've peaked. I know I don't have a graph in front of you showing you week over week where the numbers are, but it really looks like we were correct in our assumption that we were going to peak early this year, and we did. And we're kind of having a slow decline on the showing activity. It doesn't mean it's dead. It doesn't mean we're not in a seller's market. We're still in a seller's market. That's important to know. We are not in the hottest seller's market. We're not in, again, like 20 offers on one house, 100,000 over asking. That is not happening. We haven't seen that in quite a long time. Interest rates are deeply affecting things, and I'll put that data up on the screen for the Twin Cities so you can look at that too. But focusing on Wright County, we'll finish up here. 28 days is average, 10 is median, which is a remarkable number for us. And you know what? I'm actually going to double check my work because I'm afraid. I'm just like, all of a sudden I'm afraid about that being accurate. So I'm going to keep my recording, but next week you might see a change there. So for all things, let's assume I didn't lose my mind and I punched in the right numbers. I guess I feel like I was like maybe dual tasking there a little bit, and I might have grabbed the wrong number because we haven't seen 10 for median. But I don't think it's wrong. It's just kind of giving me pause, because if we were at 38 average days on market last week, we've jumped to 28. I only go back the last 7 days. I'm trying to give you the most accurate information. So sorry for my little bird walk there in my mind, because it's just, we haven't seen anything this low. And so, but here it is, it's 15. So maybe it's fine. All right.
Thanks again for having me, Erica. This is Molly Zimmerman with Bell Bank Mortgage. I have been lending in the Minneapolis, Wright County area since 2007. So I have a lot of experience working with a lot of different situations. And I think Erica brought me in today just to talk a little bit about those of you who might be wondering what it is like to convert a current primary residence into a possible rental so you can move up to that next property. Kind of different for every situation. The biggest things are, lenders are going to look at the type of financing that you're using to purchase that new property. So for example, if you're trying to use FHA financing and buy another property, a new primary residence, FHA actually does not allow you to use rental income from a property that you're vacating unless a lot of different parameters have been met. So something to keep in mind. As far as like a standard conventional loan, it really depends on, do you have management experience or not? So I think oftentimes when people are thinking about converting a primary into a rental, it might be that first like starter home and they're excited to do the move up property, but maybe they want to keep that, that first home that they purchased. But in situations like that, we can only offset that mortgage payment by the PITIA, which is like, we can't necessarily generate income from that property, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure if you've seen this before, Erica, but there's just a lot of different things that we have to watch for.
I was going to share, I think, I feel very much like an outsider. When we were purchasing rental properties, we understood the financing, complexities before we purchased. So we've never had anything as a personal property, which I believe is what you're talking about, and then moved out of it and then said, this is solely a rental, and maybe I'm purchasing another property. Which obviously has its complexities because you may still have a mortgage. And that's what you're talking about, right, Molly? You're talking about an existing, not someone who's paid off a house.
Correct. Yeah. I'm talking about, I feel like, getting into that whole rental property world, it's sometimes easier for people to think of it as, I've got this property that I own as a primary. Instead of purchasing a rental property, I'm ready for a move up home. So the nice thing, when you're purchasing a primary residence, there's less down payment required. So we're talking, minimal 5% versus maybe 20 to 25% on an investment. Yeah. But in order to offset that property that you're moving out of, lenders are going to ask you for certain things. I mean, we need to make sure we know that there's a lease on that property to use income on it. Typically, it's going to be the first month's rent, and then also a security deposit. Because we just want to verify that you are in fact planning on renting that property if we're going to be offsetting a mortgage payment. So we don't want people to say, hey, I'm going to rent out this property. I can generate X amount per month, but their intent is not actually to rent it out. Their intent might be just to wipe out that payment so they can qualify for a new purchase. So we're just going to do check balances just to make sure that you are, in fact, legitimately going to rent the property.
Gotcha. So if somebody is starting their home search for the second property and they haven't found a renter yet, would you recommend they talk to a realtor first or a loan officer first?
Well, I mean, I think you need to talk to a lender first to kind of figure out how you could potentially piece that together, but definitely you have to be open with that real estate agent also. In some cases, your offer may be contingent on getting that lease agreement on the property that you're trying to convert into an investment property. So, I mean, we all need to be on the same page and make sure that there's no contingency left unsaid when you're submitting an offer, because that's very important, I think, in the process of buying right now.
Yeah, I can tell you nobody's ever told me that they were doing this. So how common I mean, do you do these frequently or pretty infrequent in a year?
I feel like we get the question a lot, and then it just kind of depends on the client if they actually want to pursue that route or not. Sometimes they may realize that it's a little bit more challenging to go to do it than what they initially thought, or maybe you just don't want to be in hold investment properties. So I would say it's not as common as it used to be, but the guidelines have also changed. So there's like a little bit more that we need to get to make it all work right now than compared to what we used to.
Yeah, fair. I do feel like people want to talk about this a lot, or they tell me that's their intentions, where it's like, oh, because I always have to ask some basic questions like, do you own a house? Like when I'm showing people houses, and of course they'll say, yeah, but we're gonna keep this. And it's like, we need to pause right there. That was like actually a pretty big statement to say we're going to hold on to our primary residence. I don't often, and I hope I'm not like bursting anybody's bubble or reality by sharing this today, but a lot of people just can't take that next step where it ends up kind of being a pipe dream or like something that might be possible in 10 or 20 years in their lives. But in that moment to make that next purchase, it's just not going to be feasible to not take the equity out of that home that's because that's what it's coming down to, right, Molly? Like I need that money now, and it's going to be easiest to take it out of a home sale rather than converting that into like rental dollars and kind of it dripping in versus like one big chunk of money.
Correct. Yeah, I think once you put all the pieces together, the it makes sense if we don't have to use rental income to offset for an approval, because then we just count both payments against you. You've got the money without selling. But in situations where you truly have to use rental income and you're stuck on not having equity for that next purchase, it does become a little bit more tricky.
Yeah.
So I think talk to a lender and just be very open about what you would like to do. I mean, we're here to also give you ideas on how you might be able to make something like that work. But ultimately, you got to fit the guidelines and you have to be able to provide the documentation to get it approved.
Yeah. Is there anything else that we should talk about before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I mean, it's just it's very what do I want to say, situationally driven. So I mean, you just have to have the conversation and we have to take a look at your full profile to see what we need from you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about asking questions before assuming something's going to work for you. And it's definitely like it's a great idea, and it can be completely appropriate for certain people, but other people, it might be stretching things if you really need that large amount of money to help you with the next down payment or closing costs, etc. So as always, we appreciate that you joined us this week, and I know we will see you again in a couple weeks. So if anybody's trying to reach you or me, we've got a link provided. You can go to mollyzimmerman.com to set up a time to talk to Molly or get started on the process. I believe your website, they can just start working on their loan application, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it's pretty self-explanatory. But I'll have that link provided for you as well in the paragraph, and we'd love to hear from you. Everybody have a great week.